welcome to the first subcommittee meeting for the Community Building Group. We have not got any official people elected or appointed to chair or co-chair or any official roles. So if Leah or Amina or Josh would like to volunteer for any of those roles, or if you know anybody, I think that we'll have more clear role descriptions coming out in the next week or so, so that they can fit some actual tasks around what we're needing. This session is going to be quite informal, just to go through a bit of the proposed working groups in this subcommittee to make Law-Fi DAO functional and fun and welcoming. And this is not my area of expertise. It's definitely more within the realm of people joining, so very open to ideas. You will be recorded today, so if you have any issues with that, please send an email to jp@lawfidao.com and I can edit out your contribution however it may be. So welcome to the few people trickling in. We're just going to go through the brief description of some of the working groups, and really the main one is the communications and branding of Law-Fi DAO. So how do we explain what we're about, get the message out, and consistently? So it's just a number of tasks that I'm doing myself, just plodding along. I've asked for a designer to fill out our logo work and all of the LinkedIn banners and so forth today with the logo that was done by Vic Wells and Bibi Barber, our First Nations artist. So we've had a quote. It's about $390 plus GST, which I think is okay, because a number of designers don't want to do this kind of small scale work, which I don't know. It was surprising to me. It's something that I definitely don't have the skills for, and it would take me hours to work through Canva. But it seems like a small job that's not a lot of people want to pick up these days.
Probably use Fiverr.
Could have used Fiverr, yeah.
Yeah, but then you'd have to go through about 3 people until you find one you can work with.
Yeah, so again, like those things that you don't expect take time, and yeah. It's you very much gain a quick sense of appreciation for somebody who's devoted their life to crafting their art and their profession.
It's a lot in a logo, you know. You've got to get it right. You can't change it.
That's right, and so it's what Bibi and Vic have produced, as you would have seen in the workshop DAO Day 1 with the POAP. If you haven't claimed, you've only got 3 days left to claim before it expires. So, so please do if you haven't already. But so the logo and the branding and the image will hopefully come in the next few days, and then we'll have a consistent look and feel across LinkedIn, Twitter, the website, the Discord and the Jira, as well as what's being posted on YouTube. There'll be some nice opening and closing slides with clear reference points and imaging, so that it looks official too. The more substantive communication strategy as well needs to be thought through. So the nature of posts on LinkedIn and Twitter and crafting Twitter threads. Again, just to slowly build the community in these very, very early stages, where we're very much still working through proposals and concepts. So I imagine it's another 3 to 6 months before we're ready for any sort of viral effects or large influx of members. So it's kind of slowly. Again, not my area of expertise. I'll just walk through a couple of the things of where we're at, and then I'll open the floor for any ideas. There's been sort of an ask, a request for scheduling of the in-person meetups across various of the places in Australia, so that there can be at least a few weeks' notice if any person in Law Fi DAO is traveling through, that there's a common place or at least a channel in the Discord server for people to connect and meet up in real life, as well as kind of a calendar of dates of key things that we're working towards. The other subcommittees will be producing their own content. So that's the membership token, the pay to rely, and the establishment. So that content writing of listening in, contributing, sort of distilling some of the sometimes quite legal concepts that are being discussed and putting that into plain language as well as visually, visually interesting things, or even snippets of the YouTube videos, would I think also help to make the messages bite-size and for people to figure out where they do want to contribute and in which subcommittee. I know, Electra, you're sort of trying to join as many as you can to figure out where you best fit, because we can't do them all. So I suspect there'll be a bit of that going on. And then there is the other working groups, which are really self-directed for whatever the person's interest is. So we've got Luke Higgins and Jules Wanadies, forgive me, I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, who want to do a gaming, a Web3 gaming focused stream. We already have the policy stream that's been kicked off, led by Iris Rad, who can't be here today, but we've already had 3 sessions under that working group to flesh out what this UK Law Commission paper means and build a bit of a community discussing those policy concepts. Nipur has put her hand up to lead a tax working group under the policy stream. So that's with some very quick discussion over the weekend for the submission to the UK HMRC on the DeFi staking and lending, but with a few weeks to discuss the Australian Board of Tax review into taxation of digital asset transactions. And I suspect there'll be a number of other streams that people want to create and lead and bounce off the Law Fi DAO community. Then there is the NFT children's storybooks. So John Studley has put his name up for this, and it's one that I really like too, because as a tax lawyer and then a Web3 lawyer, I have no language to describe to my 2- and 4-year-old what I do, and I'd love to make it fun and relatable. So I think all of those concepts, as early as they might be, we'll discuss it. We'll have sections and a clear agenda for each of the following community building subcommittee meetings, so that there's a 10-minute or a 5-minute report out. And if it becomes more substantive and more people involved, it may have its own channel in the Discord server and people assigned to producing things. Sport was raised, as well as languages. You know, how do we just have language channels? We are very much an Australian membership base first, but we don't want to inhibit anybody from participating because they can't based on language. I don't know. I know Discord servers can have specific language channels, but I think that you need a native tongue moderator to help you build that. So that might be something when we get more global, which is not where we're at the moment. And finally, it was mentioned that there could be a social club, like a specific working group devoted to those in real life meetups or partnerships, so to speak, of existing companies or groups that have access to physical spaces, and that it's kind of like a partnerships working group where you figure out how we can make the most of existing events and available resources, and sort of have a flash mob effect of Law Fi DAO people turning up, but on a welcomed basis. So I'm not sure how you coin that. So that's some of where we're at. I'll just throw open to the floor if anybody has reactions or ideas, or if you'd like me to facilitate a discussion, just put the hand up.
What are you looking at in terms of like membership types and numbers? What do you envision?
Well, at the moment, we've had 40 plus membership applications, and about half have paid up. I think that's mostly due to the user experience at the moment. It's still manual. Once you do the form, I've got to give you the details, but we'll be updating the form over the weekend to include it all up front.
Like what size DAO do you think this will be? I mean, it's experimental. Like the goal of it, does it cease once the experiment is done, is completed, and there's a structure recognised at law? Like what?
I think it'll expand and contract. I don't think it's going to be in the next 6 months a 300,000 plus member DAO. I mean, I would be shocked, and it would be a welcome shock, I suppose, if that happened, but that's not how I'm conducting myself or gathering resources to gear up for that amount of growth that quickly.
Yeah.
But I think a reasonable number is at least 5 or 6 people in across 20 or 30 countries. Okay. So round about 800 to 1,000, I think.
Okay. And mostly in sort of legal and related professional. I mean, we talked about multi-domain expertise this morning in the development of working out the rights around digital assets. That if they're not property, then and there's not many people with other skills. What kind of skill sets are you looking to grow the member base with here?
Well, it seems like, I mean, this could change, but it seems like both lawyers as well as Web3 natives and social researchers, because law is the expression of, or supposed to be this expression of social norms, you can't really understand what's ready to be codified unless you have a really good understanding of ethnography. I think I've said that completely wrong, but the progression of human nature and what we expect from each other. And so the fact that we had Kelsey on the call this morning was incredible, because she's pulling all of that research together, and so there's probably other perspectives and other lived experience as well that weren't initially included when we codified Western laws.
Yeah.
So as you heard from Rick, with the way that they come together with their corroborees, and it's intuition-based decision-making and flatter hierarchies rather than, a flatter decision-making structure rather than hierarchies. I'm not being specific because I don't want to limit it to what we would usually think is a very effective organizational or decision-making structure, or inputs to those decisions. So it's very open. If you think that somebody is interested in solving interesting challenges and being involved in this experiment of the intersection between law and what we're finding with DAOs, then that's really the selling point. But I'm not I'm not a great comms person, so I'm sure somebody else can put that better.
Jodie, in terms of the subcommittees and working groups, obviously with the UK Royal Commission, there is a specific topic that they're looking at. Tax sort of makes sense. For the gaming one, for example, what will that be based around? What is the structure? And the reason I'm asking it is, for example, I'd be very interested to do something around IP, intellectual property, around NFTs, etc. But I'm not a lawyer, so like my knowledge around it is very, podcast and reading based. How is that structured? How do you envisage that working? What is it structured around? Kind of specific topics, or just gathering little, like almost directory of useful resources on that topic? What's the best format?
Well, both Jules and Luke are lawyers and gamers. Right. So it's as I understand it, and I've got to chat with them shortly, is they want to kind of be a focus group with all of their Web2 gaming experience and coming from their legal perspectives, critiquing a Web3 game each week. So comparing it to the Web2 game experience and then offering some insights from legal and perhaps tax perspectives and regulatory as to if you're a user, a gamer, what are the other things that you need to think about, or if you're coming up with a Web3 based game, including having to think about IP rights, that I think they're going to just try and have those takeaways as they go through quite a fun report out of their playfulness with whatever the game is per week. So, but it's open, like if you'd like to be, if that sparks your interest, then it can connect you with those two, and we can come up with a structure that is answering some of your questions too, because a lot of blockchain gaming is NFT based.
Yeah, gaming is just not my realm at all. I'm not a gamer. I don't know names, but NFT collections, obviously, such a big part of it is IP, and I've been listening to a lot of stuff around sort of IP rights and lack of precedent as to like how you deal with that, the ownership and litigation in the space, which is really interesting. But I alone can't lead that work.
I was just going to say, Leah, I'd be interested in that too. I'm a newly admitted lawyer in the intellectual property team, so I think that element of any potential policy submissions put forward would be interesting. Yeah.
Well, we did, and we got into it a bit today in the UK Law Commission group, because I invited an IP lawyer to really stress test, is it property, is it licensing? And so I very much interrogated poor James Lawrence, but he withstood the scrutiny. But I think we as LawFi DAO will scrutinise NFTs and IP rights as we go through the membership token design. And it's not so much an NFT collection that is revenue generating in probably the way that you're interested in, Leah and Amina, but for all of the artwork and the way in which we go about calling for and collating the artwork that will be the membership token, that will represent the membership token, as well as the attributes. So the more things that you self-attest to, and that there's hopefully some common symbols or art that becomes recognizable in our community, that is a very complex IP project to make sure that we're basically having IP agreements and licenses with each contributor to this membership token use, and properly defining, because if I get reputation, or if you get reputation from the attributes and it's easily identifiable by this artwork, any revenue that you might get, Leah, from another DAO that approaches you, the question is that referable back to the artwork that signals you as that person, and if that's not appropriate, then that's what we've got to be very clear about in the terms and conditions when we engage those artists for that purpose. So you might get a little bit through contributing to the membership token subcommittee, and maybe it's a specific call out to you both because you've expressed that interest to say, hey, in 2 weeks' time, this is the agenda and this is what we're going to go through. Or you can listen to the recording as well if you've got other things on, as well as we could have a specific group about NFT collections in this community building section. So you both might say, well, we want to analyse the Moonbirds collection this week and the Bored Apes collection next week, and you sort of draw in the repository of all of the things you've had to read and experience to come to the knowledge that you have now in the questions. And so myself and other people, we can get a network of people ready. If you've got some questions, it's basically like organising events each week, and it's a week by week, or it's a fortnight by fortnight, whatever schedule suits you, to report back at that main forum, or if it's substantive enough, have your own stream.
Yeah. And just a quick question about that. What would be the desired or ideal output when we're talking about these reports and the members of a gaming committee are reporting on the different games that are on Web3. Is this just for internal use, or is this going to be published on like social media for everyone to see, or is it going to be collated as a bigger
The idea
project?
is that everything is recorded. So with the gaming one, they will prepare themselves in the week and be ready to present in a recorded fashion. And it's for that education purpose. It's earlier than you otherwise would, but you're taking yourselves and others on the journey of skilling up around contributing to DAOs. So this, it seems for a lawyer untargeted, and you know, where's the deliverable, where's the output, where's the piece of advice? But actually people don't or shouldn't, in operational DAOs, a big part of it is growing the community and making people feel welcome, not just necessarily working on the automation or the protocol. Because then the protocol is quite, it's only had the input of few and it doesn't represent any diversity, nor is it necessarily promoting a community around it. So it's us exploring what is a relevant community. It might disband. You might come up with your own DAO. You might only want to do it for a couple of weeks before you say, I've got a sufficient level of knowledge. But that's the Lawfy DAO is your vehicle to contribute to the community and have your questions researched and answered, perhaps by yourself, but maybe also with a community of like-minded people that you've been able to gather.
Awesome.
I think
like that.
from my perspective, it's almost like, I would think about it as almost like a book club, and it's like a community of people that you can get together and discuss certain topics. So in an NFT IP kind of case, for example, you know, we might get together and talk about the Bored Apes litigation with Ryder Ripps and the copyright trademark elements that will be involved in that, and you know how that litigation is looking, almost building out that like a little repository of, you know, content maybe that other people can then come and utilize. So it's kind of there, and we perhaps have a view, perhaps we just talk about it, but it's almost like I would be treating it for me personally as an educational experiment as well.
Yeah, and I suppose the receipt or the recognition is that once the contribution framework comes out, you are tracking your time. And if you put an hour into your prep and then you give an hour to the recording session on the DAO Day Friday, that's 2 time tokens for you, which go to your attributes. It's one of the fields of the membership token, which goes to proving your reputation and your that you've been actively involved in a DAO. You haven't just read about it. So it's trying to give some external metric for the market, to sort of like a directory, to find the people that have actually been working on and in DAOs and not around them necessarily.
Is that something that POAPs would be used for? Proof of attendance protocols? Is that
well, I did chat to Greg Oakford on this, and the feeling is that a POAP sort of per hour would make a POAP lose its appeal. So the time token might be, it could be a fungible token or it could be a non-fungible token, but the POAPs are reserved or should be reserved for special events or milestones. So when you've reached 100 time tokens, that's when you might get the 100 milestone POAP.
Okay, but it's an incentive, isn't it, for turning up? Turning up is a problem with community projects. And,
exactly. But well, because
there's an incentive mechanism that you're building into it with members.
That's right, and tokens give us the ability to be creative with incentives, and so that's just one experiment to see if the time token which is separate to the money token for good reasons, including regulatory reasons, whether that's enough to keep a project going on time and a community engaged for whatever we need it to fulfill.
A minimum viable community also has to be effective turning up and an accountable sort of record of activity, I suppose, and that's what the time token would show, that minimum viable community is viable.
That's right. So that's so when everybody gets their member access turned on with Jira, the people who are members just have viewer access at the moment. We'll still probably need another week or two to fill out the relevant tasks, but that's where you input your time. And I'm just trying to understand the Atlassian technology to see, can you extract that into a very simple CSV report so that we can do token distribution of time tokens at the end of every month, or even more frequently, depending on the technology. So Nathan Langer was actually one of the people I was going to ask that question, Josh. So
does the Jira, I'm not familiar with Jira, does it track, and can you sort of do it on blockchain? Because I know a friend of mine runs
not on
a DAO.
blockchain.
Okay, because do you want me to find out? I've got a friend who has set up a DAO, and they have a way of tracking people's contributions through something that's called Proof, I think, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, well, so the Colony DAO, they came up with a basic set of administrative protocols for the initial administration and operation, including time tracking. And we could use that in addition to Jira, but it doesn't give you, the protocol is time tracking only, it's not task management. So what I think we really do need is the assisted and the visual task management, not just on-chain time tracking, although I'd love for a protocol to do both, don't get me wrong. But yeah, that would be a research exercise. Is there anything bigger and better than Colony protocol that combines the two? So ongoing research is difficult to carve up. It could be part of community building, where we identify the research exercises and the tasks and explain that to get people in, or it could be performed by each of the members of the specific subcommittees. Still fluid is the answer. Gordon, did you want to say something?
Oh yeah, Joni, I was just thinking, like, who would actually be, is there, like, would we call it a customer? So as our pay to rely, that part of community building. So there's going to be people that want to be involved in the DAO. Do they involved in the DAO to use pay to rely?
Yeah, you're right. There needs to be like a customer success or a customer outreach working group, and that would be the token exchanges, the financial planners, the super funds, maybe even insurers, maybe even regulators. So I think that's important, but once we bed down the pay to rely model, and that'll take at least another few weeks with that, and those subcommittee meetings are kicking off next week.
Oh yeah, sure. Because I guess that would be something that I'd be interested in, is in, like, there's not, we think, oh, they're just going to be startups. Well, there could be corporations. There could be all sorts of people that are going to want to use the service, not just, but obviously we all mix in different circles. So having ambassadors in those different circles.
Yeah, agree. And actually, while you mention it, it's also marketing to all of the law firms to be the core contributors. So once we've got these frameworks down for the legal statements, the tax statements, or all of the things that the customers will pay to rely, once that framework is set, then it is about telling all of the law firms that don't already know about LawFi DAO and saying, hey, this is how you might prove your reputation to be one of the good law firms in Web3.
Sure. So they're the suppliers, and then we've got the people that would be the buyers, basically.
Yep. So we could call it a supplier sales representative group and a customer sales representative group, or marketing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd be interested. Yeah, because I think it's something you mentioned to us about, ultimately you need to generate revenue, like one way or another. That was like clear. You made that clear to us with the School of Bitcoin. It was, well, how are you going to, how's this going to work?
Be sustainable.
Because that's something point people give their time, and everyone's enthusiastic here now and they're all joining in, but eventually it gets to, well, I get involved in another project. And so having a focus group that, yeah, we are generating, bringing in those customers, it's the go-to. So if it was the go-to place for DAO builders in Australia, so we've got like hundreds that are going to be built, and so they've got a go-to place, and we're the go-to place.
You go to Law-Fi DAO first, then you go to your lawyer, then you start your DAO.
Yeah,
I like that as a tagline.
And there's going to be, I think it's a pretty exploratory community, the crypto community, in that, you know, they won't just want to rely on their lawyer. They'll want to have that collaborative learning that, okay, we've got some choices here. Otherwise, they'd come in and go, we think this is the way to go, but let's do a little bit exploring. So this is a great place. You can go through a number of different options and go, I'll go that way.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
And I agree. And once, I mean, once the actual model is set and we're operational, that's the question of timing of with the money token, whether that is launched before or after, or how long after we have that operational traction, because we may run out of resources before that point, or people willing to contribute their time. And so we do have to fund the actual payments needed for other professional suppliers to make this thing a reality. So, yes.
Sure, I probably should be in the pay to rely, as in part of the communications. I mean, I don't have expertise in token building. I'd like to learn, but really, you know, that's something we can learn along the way. So I think that's probably, I'm in sales, so I probably should get that one. But part of the communications, I like working in Discord. I like getting people in, doing, you know, welcoming. So recruitment.
My ears are pricking up at time tracking. I like this side. I don't want to be an accountant anymore, but maybe accounting is different now. If we're looking at how value is tracked and exchanged and moved around and created, that's what really fascinates me. You want to contribute effort to somewhere where you've got skills that can help straight away, but also in an area that you want to move in the direction of. Where does that mean? So that's why I'm unsure what to do, and Gordon's now identified pay to rely. So it's good to talk about these different roles.
Yeah, and the time token, like, I hate filling out timesheets as a lawyer.
So I've done fixed pricing for like 15 years, but we still go back and check our time.
Well, and I think but the only other thing is, if you don't do a credential or a university degree, you've got no way to demonstrate that you've bridged or that you've invested enough time in another domain. So if I'm a lawyer but I wanted to be a developer, it's very hard for me to say, oh, I should come across at a senior level, because I've got no external metric that says I've put this amount of time down, or maybe I've got references with projects I might have helped in my own time. So it's either time as a reliable measure, or references. That could be another thing that we use, so that peer support that, you know, if Leah wants to branch out, then all six of us, we can say, yes, she was here every Friday afternoon, and we can all vouch. We can give that reference. So maybe references also get built into vouching for reputations in various things. If really one of the products of this is a directory and a reputation list.
So Joni, just obviously there's lawyers which are going to provide that service for people to be able to do the pay to rely. But community, do we need devs in the community?
Well, but it can be accounting services too. Like, you could do an accounting statement, or you could do really anything that lends itself to a template. But in particular for the legal statements and the tax statements, when a person pays to rely, we have to there are specific rules that we have to make sure that we comply with. So maybe the generation of a cost agreement at the particular time that a person pays to rely. So there's funny legal professional things that will relate to those products. Maybe there's the accounting rules that will relate to accounting statements, but you know, other things that you might think are necessary, like checklists or other sales and marketing documents, for you to have the Lawfy DAO people thinking about it and peer reviewing your template, then the market in a sense could also pay to rely for that too.
And so just back to my question, just about, do we have suitable devs?
No, not broadly, but Roy from Pellar Technology, who did the smart contracts for the AO Art Ball, that suite of smart contracts seemed like the most appropriate one for our membership token. So he has said he'd be interested to do the work. We've got to give him the requirements and get a quote and get it approved by the DAO. But he was the one thought of for that particular work.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
but recruitment of Solidity devs, open to it, and please, if they're interested, let them know about us.
It was just in community building. So think about our community. We've got the devs, we've got like the founder types, and we've got the community types. So it's like to build it. So if we need devs, then we've got to attract them. Like Babu, my lecturer from TAFE, I'm not sure if he joined us here, but he's hangs out with a bunch of devs, and he's been to the first meetup, like the first event. So, and he taps into the dev community. So I've just got to put it out there. I mean, we've shared this out today, what we did this morning, but getting it through to those right communication channels to get them to come in, that there's an exciting project that's going to help the ecosystem massively. It's like I connected Babu up with the lawyer from Brisbane. Sorry, I don't recall her name.
Anna? Yes.
Yeah, Anna. So yeah, there's a big dev community in Brisbane, and Ethereum dev community. So that might be a good place for us to tap into. I don't know if we need them. So yeah, it's just.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's finding the right things. So I've always struggled with asking for things, and so that's why community building is, I think, important for people to see what the project is from a distance almost, and then figure out if they're interested and they want to contribute, without me saying, oh, hey, you know, we definitely need some developers.
Right. I can do that. I have no problem with that. It's called, you know, at some point you got to give back time. What else are we here for? So they want to grow this ecosystem. It's going to benefit everyone because it's actually growing so fast. It's just getting ahead of all of them. So they've got to get involved in something. So this is a great one.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. Amina, were you going to say something just then?
I think it was probably me. I just wanted to pick up on the pay to rely that Gordon mentioned. I think that some of the content that these subcommittees and working groups will be producing will also will almost be like a funnel to attract people who would want to come and pay to rely on services. So I think a good example would be, you know, Joni's been doing this Twitter spaces with Jamieson and Boot talking about tax. And during those Twitter spaces, people were finding out that they need to, you know, attend to their taxes because they've done X, Y, and Z. And I guess the missing piece is we had Joni, we had the customer, but we didn't have a ready product that they would come and use. So this kind of almost completes the whole circle where, you know, you would go out there and be involved in Twitter spaces or speak at communities like AusDeFi or whatever it may be, or produce a report. And then people will find out about it and come to Lawfy to take the extra step, which would be the paying for you know, whatever it might be, advice or a consulting service.
Yeah, and I think that's going to get really controversial in terms of what price point we pitch it at, because it's supposed to be lower because a lot of people, in theory, would be accessing it instead of just a few. And so that's an experiment in itself. What's our price point for all of the different products? All right. Well, I think Barry, I welcome you to say anything if you're in a position to speak, or put your hand up and I can direct the conversation to you. Conscious. Oh,
No, I'm just listening at the moment. Yeah, everything's
absolutely fine.
Yeah, I missed out on the morning meeting, so I'm just here in the afternoon, just trying to catch up a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's already more than, I think, 10 hours worth to catch up on
Yeah.
history right now. So
Cool.
you might want to listen to that one on 2 times speed. All right. Josh, anything from your end that you'd like to raise?
Not at the moment. I guess, you know, you mentioned around sort of the events schedule and calendar. It'd be good to explore that further. Obviously, we can utilize spaces like Zero Cap, but also what that calendar looks like. Yeah, some other comments around sort of the design work as well, as we discussed about authorized reps of Zero Cap. We've got those capacities in-house that we can deploy. So, you know, we can definitely talk about those. Apart from that, just listen at the moment.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, an early mark is a good mark, especially on a Friday. So
Well done today, Joni.
oh, no worries. Gordon, did you have something?
Oh yeah, congrats to you girls on a powerhouse day. You've been at it all day. Hey, but just the situation where you've got companies joining, like Electra and I joined in a company. So having that sorted out as to who, what is, like, as in if you're doing work, do we have a token each, as in time token, how that allocated, or is it just the Digital Playhouse's token?
Did I join in my individual capacity, or like, are we clocking? Well, maybe we're clocking up reputation for ourselves as an education charity.
I don't mind either way, really.
Yeah,
but
I'd like to get it in
if
Digital
they're ever,
Playhouse.
it'll come back to us anyway. But
it's a common
also
question for companies that do want to have multiple of their employees involved. So does the company accrue like 1 token per hour per employee, or does it actually go to the people involved? And I feel very strongly that it should go to the people involved, but I think there probably does need to be some recognition that the company is supporting it. So maybe it's worthy of thinking about a specific policy or rule where a percentage goes to the company, but the majority goes to the individual. Companies probably may not like me for saying that, but
and that's a POAP as well. Like I read first,
you can't split a POAP.
Sorry,
you can't split a POAP into fractions.
No, so I registered on my first event with my Ethereum address, but then I'm here in a capacity of the Digital Playhouse. I guess that's, you know,
we both are.
We'll need to get clear on that for our community as people come in. And
I agree, but it's, you know what, it's also not just a law FIDAO question, but as we have more and more wallets and digital identities, choosing and jumping between each of them before you hop into a metaverse conference or even a DAO committee meeting, I think we're going to have to get more hygienic around thinking, which digital identity am I using at this particular time too?
Sure. Okay, so we'll just leave that one.
or all of them. All right, no worries.
Thank
you everybody. Have a great weekend.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.